In this video, I want to give some thoughts about what's happening around us in terms of the economy and this coronavirus pandemic crisis, and what's going to happen going forward, and whether or not things will be the same once this is all over, and what the new normal will be. So this will just be some thoughts and maybe a ramble, as one of my heroes says. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Well, for the 100th time, on this channel now, I'm going to talk about things like money, current events, and just the topic of the day. And I think this video will very much resemble a bit of a ramble. And I got that term from one of my heroes now, who follows this channel, and I think my science channel as well, the master teacher, BGS. And I want to salute you, sir, and keep up the good work, and keep opening our eyes and asking the hard questions, and going hard in the paint. I've written some notes down here, but I might just jump around a little bit, hopefully not too much, because I don't want to make this video too long. But as of now, as you know, we're all pretty much on quarantine due to the coronavirus pandemic / crisis. And when this whole thing started, or as this whole thing started to unfold, I'm the type of person who tries to spot opportunities and who tries to turn negatives into positives. And so now, as a YouTube content creator and as a writer as well, I see a lot of time, a lot of open time in front of me to just create and to work on projects. And so my mentality is to try to just make the best out of this, to try to stay as healthy as possible, and to just make the most out of this time that I have right now. Before this whole thing started, my life was a mixture of my 9 to 5, running my blogging platform, the Big Words blog site, working on my book project, and then also growing, my YouTube channels. So my life has very much been a juggling match, and I'm the treasurer for my Johnson C. Smith University DC alumni chapter. That's the HBCU I went to, and I actually had to take a step back from one of the committees I was on earlier this year, because it just got to be too much. So I'm very much seeing this now as an opportunity to move all of my projects forward. So I want to say something first about President Trump, who I know a lot of people detest, but I wanted to say something about resuming the economy. And data was released this week and last week about the unemployment claims, and there are a lot of people right now who are unemployed, and our Congress and the President have been drafting numerous relief efforts to get money out to individuals who can't go to work right now, and for businesses which are hurt right now. And there's been a lot of controversy in terms of businesses who don't need the help receiving the help. So I don't want to get into all that, but I want to focus on something, once again, the master teacher, one of my new heroes now, BGS, said last week in one of his videos. He recorded a video called President Trump's Kobayashi Maru. And the master teacher was on a hangout with several other content creators, one of them being a content creator called Mr. Fantastic. And there was a part of the discussion where the master teacher threw it out saying, "This is President Trump's Kobayashi Maru." And Mr. Fantastic is a millennial. So he was born after Star Trek II was released. And Star Trek II, for those of you who aren't into science fiction, and for those of you who were born after the early 1980s, basically, that's a classic movie. I used to watch that movie to death, and I know some of the lines by heart, and it's very much a part of pop culture. But in Star Trek 2, and I'm piggybacking off of the Master Teacher, I'm going to leave his video in the description box below. But in the Star Trek universe, in Starfleet, all of the cadets who were being groomed for being captains and holding leadership, they had to leadership on the starships where they'd go off into space and explore. They had to take a training called the Kobayashi Maru. And in a nutshell, the Kobayashi Maru is a no-win scenario. And so it's something that all of the leadership, all of the cadets being groomed for leadership, it's something that they had to think about and train for, because when they would go off into space, into different galaxies and coming into contact with different races and alien beings, in some instances they would face combat and potentially face losing their own lives and the lives of their crew and their starship. They always had to think about a no-win scenario. And so the master teacher basically in this video made the case that President Trump right now is facing a Kobayashi Maru. He has to balance the health of the U.S. population versus getting the economy back up and running. And it's a very, very serious decision as we're looking at this whole thing unfolding. And so I want to use that to segue into a short discussion about how the economy actually works. Because I don't think that, I know a lot of American citizens don't understand how the economy works. So, as I said in many of my videos, I do a lot of reading about money, and one of the series that I encourage people to take a look at least the first two books, is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. And the first two books are Rich Dad, Poor Dad and the Cash Flow Quadrant. And, Robert uses a lot of stories and analogies in his books. And his books, I believe, were my first time ever really thinking about money in terms of being currency. And I'm not an economist, so I'm not going to go into what currency actually is. I'm not going to talk about the U.S. dollar being taken off the gold standard under the Nixon administration. That's covered in Rich Dad Poor Dad as well. A lot of Americans, I don't think even think about that, but it's very relevant when you hear about the Federal Reserve and quantitative easing and them printing more money. Our dollar is not backed by gold right now, and it hasn't been since the early 70s. But when you think about currency, and I think one of the things that Robert was trying to say in Rich Dad Poor Dad is that our economy is very much based upon the money flowing. So when you think about cash flow, you think about the money flowing from point A to point B to point C to point D, flowing from this business to this business into the pockets of the consumer. People working for money, money going into the pockets of the consumer, and then the consumer spending the money in businesses, and then the government taking a piece of that. The money is always flowing. And this is something that Dr. Claude Anderson, when he talks about the money, the need for black people to bounce their money more within their communities before the money leaving our communities, that's what he's talking about. He's referring to cash flow. He's referring to currency. So our money's currency. And our economy in the United States is predicated upon money flowing from point A to point B to point C to point D. I first understood this when, during the 2008 crisis, when there was a freeze on lending. So this kind of folds into the subprime mortgage piece. There was a cartoon on one of the news, on a news broadcast. It might have been PBS, it might have been CNN or something like that. But it talked about, at that time, because all of the mortgages were defaulting, the banks, once again, they tightened their lending standards. And because they tightened their lending standards, that was making it harder for businesses to borrow money, and it was making it harder for them to do business, and it was making it harder for dollars to circulate throughout the economy. So I'm saying that to say that our economy is entirely related on the dollars circulating, and everybody getting paid in some way off of those dollars circulating. And right now, those dollars are not circulating. Some people are getting paid. For example, if you work for the federal government, or if you work for, your municipality. For example, here we have our metro system. Some of the trains are still running. If you're blessed to still have your job right now, or to still have an income from your job right now, or if you're blessed to still have an income source independent of the sectors that are affected, you're fortunate. But for everyone else, the money is not flowing through the economy. An example is the food service industries. Those businesses, while many of them are still open and they are allowing individuals to come get takeout, the servers are not getting paid. So the servers make a percentage of their money, not just from a wage, but the argument is always made that servers make the bulk of their money off of tips. Well, they're not making any money right now. The airlines aren't making any money right now because fewer people are flying. Companies like Disney right now, which I talked about in my Meghan Markle video, they're not making any money right now because people aren't going to Disney World and Disneyland. People can't go to the movie theaters. So businesses are intertwined and interrelated, and once whole sectors fall down, everything around those sectors fall down. Before I get off this, I made a video on this channel a while ago about Colin Kaepernick in the NFL, and why the owners and all the surrounding businesses were concerned about what Colin was doing. And I basically made the argument that there are numerous businesses around the NFL that need the NFL to be in existence to thrive. The hospitality industry, the airline travel, all of your restaurants surrounding those stadiums, the people who make the grills that people use to tailgate, everything. There's so many businesses just around the NFL that could have been thrown into chaos due to Colin's protesting. So those are some words about how the economy works, and people need to take this seriously, and also pay attention to what the politicians are doing. Pay attention to the moves that are being made, and think about what some of the long-term ramifications of these moves are. I don't know if I'm the only person who thinks about this. When I hear about our government spending, I always wonder, is this going to catch up to us at some point as a whole, and what will the long-term ramifications be? So I'm going to read two tweets here that I saw last night, which kind of allude to this. This one tweet was from Representative Andy Biggs. Where's he from? He's from Arizona. So he's a House member from Arizona. So this tweet says, A letter to President Trump encouraging him to oppose any additional coronavirus relief while the nation awaits the impact of the 2.2 trillion CARES Act, which was signed into law last week. And then the tweet under that, this is a thread, we must ensure that any further relief legislation, if necessary, is designed to help our nation return to the path of prosperity without adding trillions of dollars more to debt. So this guy is saying, okay, we're undergoing these relief efforts, but are we putting in something into place that's going to be permanent, or are we eventually going to get back to what we used to be and where we were before this whole thing started? And then Robert Kiyosaki actually tweeted this. He's been tweeting a whole bunch of things regarding the virus and the finances and the corrective measures that our government is taking. Robert tweeted, question, won't free money destroy the USA? Let's see. Answer, yes. End is near, in all caps. Question, what will happen? Answer, 4 futures. I'm not sure what that means. 1, or maybe this is 4 future outcomes. U.S. defaults on bonds. 2, hyperinflation. 3, the U.S. sells assets. And 4, buy, in all caps, real gold, silver, and cryptocurrency. In all caps, study real teachers on YouTube, and in all caps, prepare for brave new world. So in a nutshell, Robert is predicting that there will be permanent changes when this whole thing is done, and the wise and prudent people need to prepare and think about it and plan accordingly. I do consider myself a financially savvy person, and as I've mentioned on this channel, I'm always thinking about adding to my tool set, my toolbox, and being prepared for things like this. But one of the things I always wonder is what happens if, I'm hearing rumors about paper money going away and being replaced by something else. And, I do think about, are we headed someplace else? And what happens if, our current monetary system goes away and morphs into something else? I've heard rumors that, we'll eventually do like Greece did, where our government will start raiding our retirement accounts and all kinds of things. So I'm always thinking about that. So, again, I would encourage everyone, while you're sheltering in place, while you're trying to stay healthy, do that. But also keep your eyes on how the ground is shifting under our feet, and think about where we will be and how things will have been changed once this is all over. Because, while everyone's looking at the virus and looking at all the infections and wondering if the curve has flattened, there are a lot of things moving underneath us that most people are not paying attention to. So that's all I wanted to say. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. And once again, I want to acknowledge the Master Teacher BGS for introducing the concept of doing a ramble. And with that, I'm going to close. And always remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.